Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
All right, guys, so we were recently lucky enough to check out the New Zealand thriller Loop Track. And with us tonight, we are so excited to have on the writer, director, and star, Tom Sainsbury. Welcome to the show.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, the movie was fantastic. I watched it today and absolutely loved it. So, yeah, it was a real treat to have you on for sure.
Yeah, I loved it as well. It was so, just so much in it. It was like enjoyable to me. So, even though it stressed me out, which it's supposed to, basically. So,
yeah, good. That's the plan.
So before we get started on the movie itself, Tom, I wanted to give you a chance to kind of introduce yourself to our listeners who may have not seen any of your work and kind of how you got into the industry.
I doubt they would have. The only kind of connection to the States I've got is I was on a TV show here in New Zealand called Wellington Paranormal, which is a spin-off of What We Do in the Shadows, and that's kind of screened over your way the last couple of years. So I've got a part in that, playing like a bumbling cop. But back here in New Zealand, a very small country, I'm kind of a comedian first. That's how everyone kind of knows me, and I do lots of kind of political satire and things like that. But my heart's always been kind of with horror films, thrillers, and things like that. And so whenever I've had a chance to kind of make short films or write stories or kind of write screenplays, it's always been in that kind of genre. And so finally, I've been very lucky to have the opportunity to make Loop Track, which is kind of like my vision through and through and my kind of baby. But yeah, back in New Zealand, everyone just knows me as a comedian. And turns out when we had our screening here in New Zealand, I thought it was a lot more kind of grim and serious. But, you know, I appear on screen and everyone starts laughing. And then when I'm running for my life in my underwear, the audience was uproarious with laughter.
It's kind of hard. It's kind of like that Seinfeld episode where Elaine kept telling Jerry, "You can't not be funny. You can't not be funny."
Yeah, 100%.
So also, I read that you were also like a really like well-known playwright over there. So what can you tell us about that? And that's got to be a little different than writing for the screen.
Yeah. So I kind of cut my teeth. I started out doing lots of plays just because it was so much more accessible to do, and I could kind of just produce it myself and put shows on. But now that I'm kind of more into screen, like the playwriting, even though I absolutely love the theatre and I love the live experience, it's definitely kind of being the poorer cousin to it. But for all my 20s, I was just constantly writing plays in more of the kind of dark comedy realm of it, and producing them, directing them, kind of learning all the skills and putting them on.
Yeah, the reason I wanted to make sure I asked that is just because Tim and I both have Tim's brother is very big into the theater, and my sister-in-law is huge into the theater in California here. So so I had to ask that question just because I love seeing things on stage also. So
yes, me too, and it's my heart. And I'm doing a Christmas show over here soon, and it's just like as soon as I'm in that space, I'm like, I come alive. I love it.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. So I want to get into the movie Loop Track, and we got to dance around spoilers here.
Yes,
I don't want to give away any spoilers.
I don't want any. Yeah, people got to see this fresh.
Yeah. But I wanted to know what kind of where you came up with the idea for it, or any inspiration you had for this.
Yeah. So essentially the film's about a guy that's kind of like, you assume he's on some kind of verge of a nervous breakdown or in the middle of a nervous breakdown, and he kind of goes to the New Zealand woods to kind of get away from civilization and stuff. And while he's there, he's kind of other trampers, hikers attach themselves to him, and he can't kind of shake them off, but his paranoia kind of kicks into gear at the same time about the people and just about the woods in general. And for me, the true horror isn't being in the woods. The true horror has been trapped with people that you like, and you have to spend hours and hours and hours with them, and you can't get any distraction, and you're both on the same path, so you kind of have to walk together. And then going to cabins where you don't know people and like having to spend a lot of time with them. So that kind of social anxiety horror, even though it's not a horror, that part's not horrific. That for me was a real important thing that I find both funny and and horrifying for me. But the woods kind of thing, when I was kind of coming up with the idea for the film, I'd just recently been on some sand dunes here at the beach in New Zealand, and in the distance I could see this person that was kind of looking at me, and I couldn't kind of make out their features. I couldn't really kind of see who they were, but I could tell that they were kind of looking at me in the distance. And there was something quite chilling around that image of something being you not being able to read the intentions of something quite far away, and whether they're going to come and chase you. But this person just went and found their dog on the beach and walked off, little knowing that they inspired an entire movie. But there's just something about I was completely isolated in that situation. The phones weren't working, there's no reception, and you don't know kind of the intentions of this figure. And so that was the beginning of it. And also hiking. Do you guys call it hiking or tramping?
Hiking, yeah.
Hiking, yeah. Hiking is such a national pastime here. Lots of people go out into the New Zealand woods, and so I kind of wanted to kind of parody or just kind of do that. And also we've got such New Zealand nature is such a part of our identity, because we just had this New Zealand Bird of the Year competition that kind of blew up around the world. Like, everyone in New Zealand votes on what their favorite Indigenous bird is. And John Oliver over in the States kind of backed one of the birds, and then suddenly it became a worldwide kind of thing. So New Zealand loves its nature as well. So that was those were all the ingredients that went into the film.
That's awesome. I can totally relate to the social anxiety part, because as an introvert myself, I was watching this and I was going, "Oh my God, I know exactly what that guy is feeling."
And you wouldn't think so if you know Tim for about 2 minutes. You wouldn't think he has that, but I've known him now for a while. I mean, I've seen it with other people, so I know what he means. And that's what was so like great, because I know the same thing. Like, sometimes and you portrayed this so well too, which was like, I mean, it kind of goes into my next question a little bit, but just before I do that, it was amazing how well you portrayed that, because just like, I was getting anxiety from your anxiety in it, because it was so well done. Because it's like, here are these people and they're actually really nice people. All they want to do is help you, but but the way you've made it in there, it made it like, you're like, oh my God, why don't these people leave this poor guy alone already? When all they're doing is helping. I mean, the one guy's giving you his socks, and he's and it's like they're like the most kind group of people ever, and it's like, it's hilarious. But so what I wanted to ask you, so like, I mean, to me, what even is more impressive about this performance that you had was that you also wrote and directed this. Like, how, like what was it like, kind of like, and was it difficult to wear all three hats like that? And still, and I mean, whether it's difficult or not, whatever your answer is, I want to say you succeeded 1,000% on it.
Thank you very, very much. I think for the next couple of films, I won't be in it. Let's put it that way. But how we kind of did it is which was so beneficial, and I had my editor on set with me, and so he was there, and he's very kind of very upfront and kind of tells you exactly how he thinks it is. And he was there kind of behind the monitor, just watching and just reminding me to kind of hit certain parts in the emotional kind of journey. And he was also really good for just reminding me what coverage we needed to get. So I really couldn't have done it without him. And also, after every take, I would get behind the monitor. We had a little portable monitor, and I'd just kind of watch back and see if it kind of hit the mark. I found it quite easy because my character doesn't really say much, and so it's often the other actors that are kind of driving the scenes. And so I could kind of have two brains going on, both kind of doing my face acting, but also kind of working out the dynamics of the scene. So I think that's how it worked. But yes, definitely my editor Gabe was life-saving.
Yeah, because I'll tell you, it was so impressive, because not one thing lacked. Like, I think the writing was incredible for this. The story it told was great. It was obviously, you directed it great, and then your performance was so good. Because if your character isn't performed well, that movie doesn't work. So the fact that you were able to just do all three things so incredibly, it's just astounding to me. It's so impressive.
Thank you very, very much. And it's also I know that he's like a complicated character, and like he is annoying as well. Like, he can be very, very frustrating as well. And so the fact that you were gracious with him, I really appreciate that.
Yeah. So I'll echo Brian's remarks, because sometimes I'm watching these screeners so quickly, and we've got interviews lined up, and I've been sick for the past 2 weeks, so I haven't really had time to keep up with these things. And I'm looking. Okay, we're interviewing the director tonight, so I'm watching the movie today, not thinking that the lead actor is also the director, and I'm going, man, this guy is really good. Like this is a great performance. And then when I found out you were actually the director, I was like, I've got to get on here and tell him how awesome he was in this. It was incredible. So going back to the nature part, there had to be some challenges in filming out in the woods or jungle, whatever you called this. I kind of want to hear some of your thoughts on how difficult or maybe how easy it was to film this outdoors.
Yeah, so a couple of things. Like, we were blessed because New Zealand is a very wet country. It's kind of likened to kind of Washington State, kind of on the flip side of the globe. And so it's usually very, very wet. But remarkably, we had a drought, which the farmers hated, but it was very good for us filming because there would have been 60% of the film is outside in the trees. And there was only one day where it rained, but it was just perfect for the story. So it's after all the main action, I'm kind of walking through the trees and it happened to rain that day. And we're like, okay, we're completely blessed in this respect. The problem was that we had this quail. So the person who did the sound for it did an amazing job in general, but they had the hard task because we had this quail following us around. And there are so many lines in the film that it's like, God, it's so quiet. We're all the birds. But in those takes, there's a quail making a repeated, like a noise in the background the entire time. So the sound guy had to go through and just find where the quail was and get rid of the quail making the noise. That was the only kind of wildlife kind of mishap we had. The good thing was as well, is like we try to shoot it so it looked like we were deep in the woods, but like maybe half the scenes, if you just kind of turn the camera 45 degrees, you'd find a cabin or you'd find like a hut or something like that where all the camera equipment was stored. And so we were very kind of smart about how to film that, so we never had to walk very far. Another thing we had as well is there were a lot of night scenes, and so there was generators to make all the lights work, because to have moonlight and things like that. So the poor sound guy was going through getting rid of all the generator sounds. Yeah.
Well, Tim could probably relate because he does the editing for our episodes. And I remember I think his biggest challenge was there was an episode where something happened where somehow my audio bled into his audio, and so he had to literally go in and piece by piece remove and if you haven't been able to tell yet, I can talk a lot and I talk and I ramble, so you can imagine what a task that was for Tim to do that. And I felt so bad because it was in an interview, so we couldn't like scrap the episode and redo it. We had to power through it.
A new appreciation for sound guys for sure.
Yes,
after that,
absolutely.
So, I don't want to mention any spoilers, of course, as we mentioned, we said that earlier. But I think one of the strengths of this film is like this slow burn, and you're constantly wondering about your character state, his mental state throughout this film, and it's questioned, it's visible to the audience. How difficult was that to write? Like, how did you write that and then still go and perform that? Because it's got to be tricky to kind of capture that sometimes, when you're just writing that.
Yeah, I think that like me as a person, I'm very, people know me as a comedian, but I am kind of an introvert, and I also kind of often get myself into overwhelming situations from my own doing, and then not kind of dealing with it maturely or as an adult. So I think there was a bit of catharsis in taking that kind of character and really indulging in it. Like, I think given circumstances, that character and the way he behaves would be my true self. So I guess it was a cathartic enjoyment to kind of do it, and to take it from the page to actually filming it. We kind of factored in a lot of kind of rehearsal time, especially in the kind of group scenes with the other actors, so that they could also adapt the dialogue to suit them and to make it feel good. So every scene was kind of rehearsed before we kind of got the cameras up and filmed it. So that's the trick, I think.
Nice.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about your co-stars because I want to give you a chance to mention them, because you had a wonderful cast in this movie. So what can you tell us about some of your co-stars?
Yeah, so that they were all written that all the parts were written with them in mind. Like I had them involved, so it was writing to their strengths. And Hayden, who plays Nikki, who's the chatterbox that won't stop talking, like, and has a little bit of small man syndrome. Like he's so that is Hayden. And Hayden and I had in 2020, we did a film together that he wrote, and he was the one in charge, and he was the one that acting in it. In which we played, it was like a buddy cop ghost possession movie called Dead. And so I'm really kind of used to working with him, and I know what he can kind of deliver. And then with Tawanda, in real life, Tawanda plays Austin in this film, who's kind of like a alpha male who's from Zimbabwe, and he claims to have killed a lion with a rock and all that kind of stuff. And he, in real life, he's a poet. He's like a stoner poet who just kind of like between takes, he would get out his notebook and be writing poetry. And then he kind of switches it on to be this kind of macho guy. But I knew it was in him. And then the lovely Kate. So we've got this competition in New Zealand called the 48-hour film competition. I believe
we have
got
that here too, actually.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we've won 2 years in a row, and that kind of began the genesis of this film. We kind of got prize money and stuff, which would have been really good to make a short film, but we were like, let's make a feature film. And she was in both of those films, and I just know her versatility in those roles, and I absolutely love her. And what I kind of really wanted with that character was that she is kind of caring, which makes it so much work. Like for me in that social situation, the horror of, I mean, he should kind of let himself be cared for by these people or kind of follow them and stuff, but it's just so awkward and so horrible that they are caring for him. Yeah, horrific.
Yeah, no, the cast was amazing. I think I can relate to Nikki's character because that's the character, because that'd be kind of me, the one that doesn't stop talking, that's always offering things to people, like, are you okay, you need anything, because that would totally be me. Tim will tell you. I'm like, but it all comes from a good place, that's
yes,
right.
I
think and that was, I think was also it came out because I think like you said, Hayden, that's him. Well, you could tell it was so natural. So like you could just see like, oh my God, that seems like it wouldn't have shocked me if you said you just met a hiker, like, and that's how he really was, because he was so good.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask about, so I know it's not releasing yet until technically December 1st to the masses, but I'm sure like us, we've had screeners and may have played a festival and thing. Have you gotten I've seen some reviews that have been very positive, which is nice to see, but like, do you feel it met the expectations, the reviews that you were getting back and the responses you're getting, did it meet the expectations you were looking for?
I think so. What was really eye-opening for me, as I said before, like the very first screening was part of a festival here in New Zealand, and the fact that everyone was laughing a lot, the jokes kind of landed a lot more and people were laughing a lot more than I was kind of expecting, because we'd done kind of trial screenings and stuff, and people weren't laughing, but they were kind of invested in the story. And so the comedy coming through was a surprise to me, but I feel also that there are different interpretations of the film and people take away different things from it. So some reviews kind of focus on certain aspects of it, but they focus on the right things, but not the whole picture, I think, or kind of what I was kind of intending to do. What was amazing is because we had a screening in Screenfest in LA earlier this year, and we were so worried about whether it would translate and, translate to a different culture, because that was the first country we'd kind of shown it in. And the fact that people were laughing and kind of got on board with it was so kind of heartening. So, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, I think you could... I could see how you could see the film two different ways. Like I saw one review where it mentioned the lead character was annoying, whereas I felt sympathy for him. So it's like, because I kind of come from that. I come from that introverted, and I can understand that. But I can imagine, like, if you were an extrovert, you would find this character very grating because you're not coming from that same experience. I could definitely see how you could see this from two different perspectives, for sure.
Yes, 100%. And even me, like watching that character, even though it is me and it's like very reflective of me, like there's definitely, he can be very annoying.
Well, if it makes you feel better, I'm definitely considered, I think Tim would tell you, I'm definitely more the extrovert than introvert, but I have such anxiety over a lot of things. So I think I balance out that way. So I kind of was still sympathetic with your character. Like I didn't really find him annoying. I felt him more like, like I could relate to him, but I could relate to
Yes.
also Nikki, the character of Nikki at the same time. So it was like, I
Yes.
was like, that's why I think I love films where I can relate to multiple characters, I think, because I think I'm all
Right.
over the place anyway. Tim will tell you too. So to me, that's why I loved it. And Tim and I've always been fans of those slow burns and those like,
Mm.
cool set pieces with really interesting characters. And it's like, I mean, when I first got when I first heard the title, I'm like, Loop Track. I wonder what that's, and I didn't, and as I kind of went into it with really no expectations at all, and it just blew me away. And like Tim said today too, he texted me, he goes, "Oh my God, this film was amazing." I said, "I told you, right?"
Yeah, it's interesting. Like the title of the track, because you guys use the term trail more, right? Like a trail is what you hike on.
I didn't put the hiking thing at all when I saw Loop Track. To me, that didn't jibe until I started watching the movie. Yeah, we would say hiking trail.
Of course, hiking trail, but we hear like a loop track is a loop track, walking it, and then also the loop track of just the same song or the same thing playing over and over again as well. Yeah.
Well, don't worry. They'll probably change the title when some American director comes in and ruins it with a remake. But
exactly.
Yeah. So Brian, I was going to flip the order of these last
two
questions because I want to end on letting our listeners know where to find the film. But so second to last question, Tom, where can people find you online to keep up with like your upcoming projects and that kind of thing?
Oh, bless you. I'm very big on Instagram, so it's Thomas with an H, Thomas Sainsbury. On Instagram, and lots of videos, and I also do lots of that's where I do post most of my comedy stuff, but I'm always plugging my big stuff there as well.
I think I had us follow you already, so I think I found you on there. So we like to I like to try and make sure I follow, and we also like to share. My big mouth comes in handy there because like I've already, I'll literally be telling everybody that I talk to. And it's funny because with the podcast, so many people like when they say, "Oh, so what have you seen lately that's good?" And I usually like to have a couple things. So this is definitely coming out of my mouth when it comes to what should I watch this weekend. So
right,
but But yeah, so basically, if you want to give a little like final pitch, like where they can everyone can find it here in the States.
So there are a few kind of festival kind of showing it around the place, but the main place is Apple TV. You can find it on Apple TV.
That's great. Awesome. Yeah, I know I got to tell one of our friends, he's a big horror fan of ours, our friend Jeff, who he loves to find a new movie. So I'm going to definitely make sure he checks this out because he is like a great social media engagement, and he will be spreading the gospel of how good this is. I guarantee you. So.
Perfect.
Yeah, I've got a neighbor who's headed over to New Zealand in January because he's got family over there, and he comes back with these wonderful stories about how wonderful it is over there. So I hope to be able to visit there.
Yeah, I want to go there. Tim and I have to come down there, and you'll have to show us around on one of those trails.
Honestly, yes, you honestly come down. And the thing about New Zealand is that everyone knows, like it's so small, everyone knows everyone. So if you want to meet, if you're here and you want to meet Taika, please, I'll wrangle it.
Awesome.
Yeah, Tim and I'll come down. We'll do a Civil War pilgrimage where we like tour all the different countries of the films we like. So
perfect.
It'll be fun. Yeah. So thank you so much for coming on. It was such a treat. I know we say our listeners probably hear it all the time, and they're probably like, they say this all the time, but we wanted to definitely make sure to tell you, like, it is to us such a bonus when we see a film that we love so much and then get to talk to the creator behind it, because we just love the process of filmmaking. We love films, and we love to hear all the different angles of it. It was great that we had like the triple threat with you. You got to write it, direct it, and star.
Yeah, my absolute pleasure. I love it, and I just love talking with people that are passionate about film, because I am realizing more and more I'm a complete film nerd. Listen to all the podcasts about it and just absolutely love films.
Nice. Well, now you have another one to add to our list.
Exactly.
Too bad you're not in Croatia. We're trying to bump those numbers up because it's this running joke we have, because we got an email saying, "Hey, congratulations, you're 131st podcast in Croatia." So we're like, okay, didn't even know we made it there, but
we're gonna make 130 one of these days.
Yeah, one of these days we're gonna get that advanced by a one there. So I don't know. Maybe this interview will do it. I have a feeling, at least.
Yeah, Tom, feel free to come back on, or you can just drop us a line if you have anything new coming up. We'll be happy to promote it on social media. And wish you the best of luck in your next endeavors.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and just like the fellow hikers you met, now you can't get rid of us. We're with you the whole time now. We're gonna follow you around. We're gonna
Yes, complete blessing.